It has been more than 25 years since the dream of the new Middle East was in the works by Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres. In the early 2000s, it was once again talked about when the Arab Initiative offered Israel full normalization in the region in return for a Palestinian state in the borders of '67. When Netanyahu and Trump announced the UAE-Israel peace deal earlier this month, they also revived that old dream of peace with the entire Arab League. The president of the United Arab Emirates on Saturday issued a decree abolishing a law boycotting Israel and allowing trade and financial agreements between the two nations. Meanwhile, Sudanese Prime Minister told Pompeo last week that his transitional government doesn't have a mandate to normalize ties with Israel before 2023. But Pompeo is on the go, visiting Bahrain and pushing the royal family there to join the peace deal, doing the same in Oman and stopping in Abu Dhabi for discussions ahead of the first El Al commercial flight to land in the UAE on Monday, with American and Israeli business delegations on board in the fields of aviation, space, health, and banking.
I introduced the head of the National Security Council, Meir Ben Shabbat, to head a professional Israeli delegation to talks in the United Arab Emirates next week. This delegation will work together with an American team and a team of the UAE to promote peace and normalization between Israel and the UAE.
So what sort of business opportunities does the new Middle East hold for Israel? For more on that, we're joined by Dr. Amit Mor. He is the CEO and co-owner of Eco-Energy Financial and Strategic Consulting Firm and a professor at the IDC in Herzliya. Thanks so much for coming into our studio.
Thank you, Ariel. It's great to be here.
Okay. Let's talk about the flight that's taking off tomorrow morning from Israel to Dubai. It's going to have a lot of businessmen on it, the first business delegation accompanied by the Americans. What single field do you see the most potential in?
Well, I think that water desalination is a major field of co-investments and mutual development, especially in Arab countries, Gulf countries, a great need for desalinated water. Israel is a world leader in water desalination. In a past decade, we constructed the 6th largest water desalination plants in the world with a very, very minimal costs. So I think in this field, a huge area for cooperation. In addition, this is what we call a desert irrigation. Israel, again, is a great leader and developed technologies for irrigation and desert agriculture. I think we can contribute a lot in this field.
Is agriculture still interesting in the days of high-tech and new energy?
Indeed, a great need, of course, the wish to diversify and also to base some of the food of domestically produced agriculture is a great need, and especially with global warming and climate change, the need is even enhanced. In this respect, Israeli technologies can contribute to the region.
Okay, I want to move to Sudan, that is actually very much reliant on agriculture, about 80% of the economy in the country. The other 20% very much oil. How interesting is that for Israel? Could Sudan become a potential supplier? Pompeo's first stop after Israel was Khartoum.
Vis-a-vis supply of oil, well, Israel is very well supplied from very close, relatively close sources like Azerbaijan, Russia, and so on and so forth. Sudani oil or United Arab Emirates oil can also be a source of supply, depends on market conditions. But again, I think the mutual cooperation can be based on basically food technologies, irrigation technologies, water desalination, this type of technologies, cybersecurity, and also as being conducted, especially in the past few years with Arab Emirates, this is defense technologies and so on and so forth. But I think that vis-a-vis African countries and also other Arab countries, the issue is water. They have a lot of gas. Israel has technology and can provide guidance and so on and so forth, especially in irrigation, water desalination, food technologies.
Okay.
I think this is a major comparative advantage of Israel and the need of the nations all together to develop their markets.
Same applies for Oman and Bahrain in that area of the Gulf with regards to their need in water technologies?
I think that water desalination is a great need, especially to lower cost of water desalination with Israeli technologies, for example. Other fields of cooperation is what is called smart energy, also called today smart cities. This is a combination between high tech, basically utilizing our mobile phone to take advantage of the technology and to utilize efficiency, energy, also provide technologies to utilize smartly our home with all the new technologies and the Internet of Things and so on. So I think there is great interest in what we call smart cities. And here there are hundreds of startups in Israel that are developing technologies. And I believe that's another field for cooperation between Israel, the Emirates, and other Arab countries.
Definitely. Dr. Amit Mor, thank you so much.
You are much welcome. Thank you.